I'm Alex, almost 30, a freelance writer. Sounds kinda cool, right? Like I've got my shit together? But honestly, I'm just trying to stitch myself back up, piece by piece, after getting thrown out of my own home a few years back. The whole thing, it gutted me. Made me feel like I was just this big, inconvenient lump, a burden. Always had that feeling, deep down, that being pushed out was just inevitable. I deserved it, somehow. That's what I told myself anyway, over and over. Now I'm holed up in this small apartment on the edge of the city. Enough space for one guy and his ghosts, I guess. It's quiet, too quiet sometimes. I try, really try, to bury the memory of Sarah, my sister, and her boyfriend, Mark, kicking me to the curb. But that day, man, it just claws its way back into my head every single night, like a broken record playing on repeat. Take this morning, for example. Just another Tuesday. I'm at my usual spot, the corner cafe, trying to wrestle a ridiculously boring contract into shape. Black coffee, no sugar, just the bitter truth. My fingers hover over the keyboard, but my brain's doing its own thing, replaying those fights, those cold, cutting words. It was always the same, you know? A slow burn. Sarah and Mark, their faces tight, their voices getting sharper with each passing week. We need our own space, Alex. This is our home now. The pressure just kept building, relentless, like a slow-motion avalanche. And then it hit. One night, a crescendo of shouting, their anger a physical thing pressing down on me. Sarah's eyes, usually so warm, were like chips of ice. I remember her pointing at the door, her voice a whip cracking through the air. "This is our house now. Get out." Just like that. No warmth, no hesitation, just pure, unadulterated venom. I felt it then, that familiar ache, the one that tells you you're just unwanted, a spare part, busted. And I bought it, hook, line, and sinker. They wanted the house, their own life, and I was just in the way, a ghost haunting their future. So I left, packed what little I had, and just walked away. It made sense, didn't it? Made perfect sense. At least that's what I told myself to keep from unraveling, to just keep going. Because what else could I do? That memory, I'd polished it so smooth in my head, sanded down the rough edges of betrayal until it just felt like a painful but logical ending. Yeah, logical. Gotta have logic to survive something like that, right? Sometimes I'd pull out that old photo from my wallet. It's faded now, edges soft. Mom, Dad, Sarah, and me, all smiling, standing in front of the house. The house. Back then, it felt so warm, so safe, a real home. Nothing like the cold, unfamiliar place in my final, ragged memories. The contrast, it always gets me. My throat would tighten, a familiar sting behind my eyes. I'd just stare at it, wondering when that warmth had turned to ash. I was zoning out again, staring through the cafe window, watching the rain stripe the glass. Lost in my head, as usual. That's when I saw her. A figure, slender, a familiar swing to her walk. My heart gave a stupid, unnecessary lurch. Sarah? It looked so much like her. The way she held her head, the slight hunch of her shoulders when she walked in the cold. My breath hitched. For a second, just a split second, I thought, but then I blinked, and she was gone. Just a trick of the light, I told myself, rubbing my eyes. Or maybe my brain's just playing games, pulling shadows into familiar shapes. God damn it, Alex. Get it together. You're overthinking, always overthinking. Later that night, back in my apartment, the air felt thick, heavy, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. I was just about to hit the sack when I heard it, a soft click. Like a lock turning. Or maybe, no, like a door handle. My blood ran cold. The front door. I swear I'd locked it. Checked it twice, like I always do. My heart started doing a frantic tap dance in my ribs. I froze, listening. Nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator. Maybe it was the wind, or the old building settling. It does that sometimes. Makes all sorts of weird noises. But this felt different. A cold sweat prickled my skin. I tried to swallow, but my throat was suddenly dry, tight. My hand started to tremble, just slightly. The kind of tremor you can barely feel, but know is there. I crept out of my bedroom, moving slow, like a predator stalking its prey. Or rather, prey trying not to be seen. Every creak of the floorboards echoed in the silence. My eyes darted around the living room, checking every shadow. The coat rack looked like a looming figure. My own reflection in the dark window made me jump. Finally, I reached the front door. My hand, still shaking a little, went to the deadbolt. It was locked, solid, just like I left it. I let out a shaky breath, a puff of relief that felt weak, almost pathetic. See? Nothing. Just my head messing with me. This old apartment, it has a way of playing tricks. Old buildings, you know. They have their own personalities, their own creaks and groans. I chuckled, a hollow, humorless sound. But still, the hair on the back of my neck felt like it was standing on end. And I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been close, too close. The next day, still a bit rattled, I was cleaning out an old junk drawer in my desk, just trying to keep my hands busy, you know, full of old receipts, dead pens, random bits of hardware. And then my fingers brushed against something cold, metallic. I pulled it out. A key. Not just any key. This was heavy, old-fashioned, with an intricate head and a slightly tarnished brass gleam. My breath hitched again. It was the spare key to my old house, the one Sarah and Mark had kicked me out of, my childhood home. I'd sworn I'd thrown this thing away years ago. Had a whole ritual, actually. Remembered tossing it into a dumpster, a symbolic act, saying goodbye. But here it was, lying in the bottom of a drawer I hadn't touched in ages. It felt like an icicle against my palm, a sharp, unexpected jab straight to the gut, like a bone caught in my throat. This key, it was a piece of the past I desperately tried to bury, a piece that shouldn't exist anymore. It lay there, heavy and accusing, a silent question mark in my hand. If I'd thrown it away, then how did it end up here? And why did it feel like it was watching me, an ancient, knowing thing, finally making its presence felt? My chest felt tight, suddenly, very, very tight. After finding that damn key, the one to the house Sarah and Mark kicked me out of, my head's been a mess, like a real proper mess. For days, this unsettling feeling just clung to me, a damp, cold blanket I couldn't shake off. I'd catch myself mumbling, "Are you losing it, Alex?" My voice sounded rough, almost foreign in the quiet of my apartment. It was like I was talking to some stranger, someone I barely recognized in the reflection of my own tired eyes. My usual routine, the thing I clung to like a lifeboat, it started to feel different. That isolation, it wasn't just about being alone anymore. It was turning into something darker, something more obsessive. Every little creak of the old wooden floorboards, every groan of the pipes in the wall, they didn't sound like an old building settling. No, man, they sounded like someone breathing, right there, right next to my ear. Like a whisper, too soft to make out, but too close to ignore. I'd whip my head around, heart doing a stupid little jump, but there was never anything. Just shadows playing tricks. Or maybe not. I tried to work, tried to drown it all out with deadlines and research, but my eyes just kept blurring over the words on the screen. Instead, I'd see faces. Blurry, distorted faces from the past, swirling around the edges of my vision. Sarah's cold eyes, Mark's sneer. They weren't clear, but they were there. Always there. Mocking me. Just a flick of a memory, I told myself. Just my brain being a dick. But the cold feeling in my gut, it wasn't just a memory. Then the whispers started for real. At first, I thought it was just the wind whistling through the gaps in the window frame, a low hum. But it morphed, little by little. I'd be sitting there trying to focus, and I'd catch fragments, like someone trying to talk from a room away, their voice muffled by a thick wall. Get out. A pause. Hours. And then, the worst part, a voice that sounded so much like Sarah's, but twisted, stretched out, like something being dragged across sandpaper. It sent shivers down my spine, made my teeth ache. I'd grip the edge of my desk, knuckles white, forcing myself to take slow, deep breaths. This is just stress, Alex. You're hearing things. You're just hearing things. One afternoon, I was trying to distract myself, digging through an old box of junk from when I first moved in. Found my old photo album. Yeah, I know, super vintage. I flipped through the pages, seeing younger, happier versions of me, Mom, Dad, and Sarah. Then I got to the picture of our old house, the one from my previous life. The sun was shining, Mom's rose bushes were in full bloom. I traced the outline of the front door with my finger, a ghost of a smile on my face. That's when I saw it. Just a tiny black dot right on the door, like someone was peering out from the shadows. My breath hitched. I leaned closer. It was gone. I rubbed my eyes hard, blinked a few times. Must have been a speck of dust, or a smudge on the old print. Yeah, just dust, right? My hand shook a little as I closed the album, putting it back in the box with a thud. Later, I was making myself some sad microwave dinner, and my laptop screen, which was just showing my desktop, suddenly flickered. The browser opened. No, I didn't open it. It just opened. And then in the search bar, already typed out, was the address to my old house. 123 Maple Street, Elmwood, CA. My heart started thumping. I hadn't typed that. I hadn't even thought about searching for it. I stared at the screen, my hand hovering over the trackpad like it was a live wire. The results loaded. Sparse. Very sparse. No current owner listed, no recent sales history, just a few outdated property listings. Like the house had just vanished from the market, like it was in a black hole of data. I slammed the lid shut. My hands were clammy. This was seriously weird. Definitely just a glitch. Old laptop, you know, they do that. The nightmares, though, they were definitely not glitches. They started getting more intense, more vivid. Every single night, it was the same damn scenario. Me, standing in the living room, surrounded by my packed boxes. Sarah and Mark, their faces distorted, like reflections in a funhouse mirror, pushing me towards the door. But now, in the dream, their faces would melt and shift, becoming something else. Not human, just dark, swirling masses where their features should be. And when they pushed me out, the cold was so real, so biting, I'd wake up in a gasp, covered in sweat, that icy feeling still clinging to my spine. It wasn't just a memory anymore. It was a physical assault. My head throbbed. I'd lie there for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was ever going to get a decent night's sleep again. One night, I was actually making some progress on an article, the words flowing pretty well for once. My headphones were on, some chill lo-fi beats playing, when I felt it, a tremor. Not just my building settling, no, the whole wall next to my desk vibrated. Then came the sound. Bam! 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 A heavy, insistent knocking on my front door. Hard. So hard, the pictures on the wall rattled. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum solo. I ripped off my headphones. Who the hell? At this hour? I instinctively slid off my chair, crouching behind the sofa, my breath hitched in my throat. Every muscle in my body was screaming to just stay still, frozen. The knocking continued, relentless, each thud echoing through the small apartment, making the floor vibrate under my knees. It lasted for what felt like an eternity, maybe 2-3 minutes, then silence.
Abrupt, absolute silence. My ears were ringing. I stayed hidden, heart still doing flips, waiting, listening. Nothing. No footsteps receding, no car driving away, nothing. After what felt like forever, I slowly, cautiously crept to the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty, just the faint glow of the emergency light. My mind raced. Who? What? Oh God. My hands were shaking so bad I had to press them against my chest. A few days later, my phone buzzed, a text message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, thinking it was just spam, but something told me to open it. My thumb hesitated over the screen for a second. Curiosity, I guess, or maybe dread. The message popped up. That house, it's theirs, not yours. My blood ran cold. My fingers fumbled, adrenaline coursing through me. I didn't even think. I just tapped, deleted the message, and blocked the number, all in one panicked blur. My hands were trembling so much they almost dropped the phone. Fuck, I muttered under my breath, my voice barely a whisper. Must be some sick joke, or a scammer. Just some fucked up scam. I threw the phone onto the sofa cushion like it was on fire. No way it was connected. Just a random creep. Yeah, had to be.
I walked into the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face, trying to shake off the chill that had settled deep in my bones. I looked up into the mirror. My face stared back. Pale, way too pale. My eyes looked wide, a little wild. And for a split second, just a flicker, my reflection changed. The corners of my lips twisted upwards, not a smile, but a sneer, a cruel, knowing sneer that wasn't mine. It was quick, gone in an instant, replaced by my own panicked face. I blinked, hard. "You're losing it, Alex." I slapped my cheek, not hard, just enough to sting. The reflection stared back, just my reflection, looking scared and tired. But that sneer, it felt so real. It felt like it was still there, just beneath the surface, waiting, watching. And I was starting to believe it. I was really, truly losing my goddamn mind. After finding that damn key, after those whispers started getting real and that reflection in the mirror, man, sleep became a myth, a cruel joke. Those muted sounds, those shadowy flickers at the edge of my vision, the nightmares that felt more real than my waking life, they weren't just breaking my mind anymore. They were actively shredding it. I was a wreck, gaunt, with eyes that looked like I'd been punched repeatedly. Every morning, I'd stare at my reflection, trying to find some trace of the old Alex, but it was just gone, replaced by this hollowed-out version, a ghost of myself, constantly questioning everything. What was real? What wasn't? I genuinely didn't know anymore. It felt like I was trapped, locked inside some twisted game my own brain had invented. And the only way out, the only door I could see, led straight into the very truth I'd been running from for years. The truth that made my gut clench just thinking about it. But this gnawing feeling, this urge that kept pulling me back to that buried past, it was getting too strong to fight. I needed answers, needed them bad. Even if those answers ripped me apart, even if they were more messed up than anything I could imagine, I just had to know. So, one dreary afternoon, the kind where the sky just hangs low and gray, I was in the kitchen, trying to make myself a crappy cup of instant coffee. The kind of day where every shadow feels heavy, every sound too loud. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. My heart did that familiar little lurch. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Just a reflex, maybe. A morbid curiosity. I pressed the green button. Hello? My voice was hoarse, a whisper. Silence on the other end. Not a dead silence, though. More like a muffled, buzzing kind of quiet. Then I heard it. Faint at first, like static on an old radio, but it grew. A murmur, a low, distorted murmur of what sounded like a crowd.
A lot of voices, all talking at once, but none of them clear enough to make out. And then, cutting through the noise, a laugh. A soft, mocking laugh. It was a woman's voice, and it sounded so damn familiar, so much like Sarah's, but twisted, like someone had taken her voice and stretched it thin, made it brittle. My blood ran cold. "You're always, always the outsider, Alex." The voice, Sarah's voice, but wrong, hissed into my ear. Just that one sentence. Then the line went dead. My hand was shaking so hard, the phone almost slipped. I dropped it on the counter with a clatter, my breathing ragged. Fuck, what the hell was that? It couldn't be Sarah, right? It couldn't. This was getting way too close, too personal. My skin crawled. That was it. I was done. Done with the whispers, done with the shadows, done with the feeling of being haunted by something I couldn't even name. "Enough," I muttered, my voice cracking. "This ends now." I had to find out. Had to. I grabbed my keys, threw on a jacket, and practically ran out the door. The familiar hum of my old beat-up car felt like the only steady thing in my spinning world. I drove. Not to my apartment, not to hide. I went to that little coffee shop downtown, the one I used to go to all the time, before. Everything. It was a gamble, a desperate hope. I just needed to see a familiar face, anyone, a friendly face. Anything to ground me, to make me feel like I wasn't completely losing it. I needed to talk to someone who knew my past, who could tell me what the hell was real. The bell above the door chimed as I pushed it open. The smell of roasted coffee beans and pastries hit me, a strangely comforting scent amidst my chaos.
I scanned the room, my heart still thumping like a drum solo. People sat at small tables, chatting, tapping on laptops. Nothing. No one. Just normal people, living normal lives. I ordered a black coffee, my hands still trembling slightly as I took the cup. And then, as I turned to find a quiet corner, I saw her. Sitting at a small table by the window, her back to me, but that fiery red hair was unmistakable. Chloe, Sarah's old high school friend. Fate, or maybe just some cruel cosmic joke, had decided to throw me a bone. Or a lead, I don't know. My stomach flipped. I hesitated for a second, then walked over, trying to play it cool. "Chloe, hey, long time no see." She turned, her eyes widening in surprise. "Alex, wow, what a shock. How are you?" We fell into that awkward small talk you do with people you haven't seen in years. The weather, work, all the usual crap. My mind was racing, trying to figure out how to bring it up, how to casually drop the bomb that was my entire life. Finally, I took a deep breath. "So," I said, trying to make my voice sound light, breezy, like I was just making conversation. "Sarah and Mark, still at the old house, huh? Haven't really been in touch." I watched her face, every muscle in my body tense. Chloe raised an eyebrow, a tiny flicker of something I couldn't quite place in her eyes. Confusion? Surprise? She took a long sip of her latte, her gaze drifting out the window for a second, then back to me. Her voice was calm, almost annoyingly casual, like she was talking about yesterday's groceries. "Oh no," she replied, a faint, almost dismissive laugh escaping her lips. "They moved out ages ago, Alex, right after Mark's accident, actually. Sarah hated being alone in that big house, said it gave her the creeps, so she moved into a small apartment downtown. I heard the old house has been empty ever since." The words hung in the air, heavy and cold. It wasn't a bomb dropping. It was a goddamn scalpel, slicing straight through everything I thought I knew. A sharp, icy blade that cut through my memories, neatly, cleanly, leaving an open, gaping wound. My heart started slamming against my ribs, a panicked animal trapped in a cage. Mark's accident? The house? Empty ever since? My mind was a whirlwind of frantic questions. If they moved out years ago, if the house had been empty, then who the hell was it? Who were the faces in my dream? Who were the people who pushed me out that night? Who was it that stood on my porch, their words sharp and cruel, telling me to get out? My whole body felt numb. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers clumsy. I had to call Sarah. Had to. I scrolled through my contacts, my thumb shaking. Her old number. I dialed. The automatic voice replied instantly. The number you have dialed is not in service. Disconnected. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? I desperately scrolled further, to Mark. My eyes landed on his name, and right next to it, a small, chilling note I must have added ages ago and completely forgotten. Mark, R.I.P. R.I.P. Rest in peace. My world didn't just crash. It shattered, exploded into a million tiny, sharp pieces that flew in every direction, cutting me from the inside out. Mark was dead? Mark was gone. But how? And when? And if he was gone, and Sarah moved out, and the house was empty, what the hell is going on? I choked out, the words barely a whisper. My throat felt tight, raw. I stood there, everything around me blurring, spinning. My mind was just blank. A vast, terrifying chasm had opened up right in front of me, swallowing everything I thought was solid. If it wasn't them, then what was it? Chloe's voice, still echoing in my ears, sounded distorted now, metallic and mocking. I looked into the polished glass reflection of the coffee shop window, seeing my own pale, terrified face staring back at me. And then, for a split second, just a flicker, a faint, shadowy figure materialized right behind me, standing over my shoulder. Its eyes, glowing a deep, bloody red, stared directly into my reflection, a cruel, twisted smile stretching across its face. It was there, and then it was gone, dissolving back into the darkness of the glass. My breath hitched. I squeezed my eyes shut, then opened them again, wide. Nothing. Just my own reflection, looking more panicked than ever. I didn't know what was real anymore. What was a lie? Was I just trapped in some endless, horrifying nightmare? And there was no waking